to the Dream 100 Show, the epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tasner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's edition of the Dream 100 Show. Today's topic is this: you are doing everything wrong. Now, hear me out for a minute. All day, every day, I work with business owners. I myself have been a business owner for 20 plus years. And I can tell you that the exact things I'm going to teach you today, the exact same things I'm going to share, I have made all these mistakes. And when I've reflected back in hindsight, I've seen that there were a lot of different paths to get from point A to point D. And usually it's not linear. It's typically not a straight line from path to path. So you go from over here, holy crap, the sky's falling, to over here, everything is magical and there's a pot of gold. I like to call these fortune maps. It's a painted picture map of step by step by step on how to get from point A to point D. But when I look at point A to point D, and I look at all the different directions that you can take, there always is the most logical path forward. So if you think about it and you look at like Google Maps, say you're getting ready to go on a long road trip, and you punch in your destination, and it's going to give you options. It's going to give you the fastest. It's going to give you the most recommended, the one with the least amount or no tolls, the one that's the smallest amount of miles. You could even have a route that has no highways, if that's possible, depending on where you're going. So it's going to give you all these different options, but it always has a recommendation. And that recommendation, if you're not aware, is built off of AI technology. So it's going to look at likelihoods of certain things going wrong. So on this route at this particular time, how has that fared? Like, is it normally taken 3 hours on average, or every 1 in 5, it could take 5 hours? And if you're punching it in, you're saying, well, I'm going to be going here at 3 o'clock and trying to arrive by 6, well, you're going to be going through some rush hour traffic. So it might make different recommendations. So it'll give you the recommendation, again, based on data. And when I look at this concept of you are doing it all wrong, and I wouldn't say you're doing it all backwards, I would say that you're approaching scaling and growing your business the wrong way. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So I had a phone conversation yesterday with a business owner that owns a whole slew of real estate. They have like a lot of real estate, I think like 1,000 units, some crazy amount across multiple different properties. And they're saying, well, what do we need to do to go from where we are to essentially 10x? How do we go from 1,000 properties to 10,000? Now, this is not my area of expertise. That's real estate and development and things like that. And the conversation that we were going to have was going to be a marketing-driven conversation. But what I found that all throughout the conversation, they kept moving it back to team, the accounting side, the finances, which obviously is critical when it comes to buying real estate, the systems, the type of contracts. It kept veering off of this conversation around marketing. So the idea was twofold. Number one, how could we start to deploy some marketing to attract investors? And then number two, it was how could we deploy some marketing to attract some deal flow? So depending on how much you know about real estate, it really doesn't matter a ton. But when I've looked at real estate, some of the best real estate deals come from off-market deals, things that didn't hit the MLS, and it was an off-market. So it was an owner that they got approached to sell. Maybe they mentioned something at an event or mentioned something to a friend, but it ended up getting sold. So that was kind of the initial conversation. But then again, it spun over to, well, we're going to need this amount of cash, and then spun over here, well, we're going to need these team members to help handle the sales calls. And then over here, we're going to need a project management system. And the conversation kept turning. So, well, Michael, what would you have done differently? When I look at any new business, any existing business, for me, the easiest way to solve any problem is through marketing. It is taking a marketing first mentality, a no-joke marketing style of operating. So what does that mean? That means that on that particular phone conversation, and I will give you a few other examples, we shouldn't have been dealing with project management. We shouldn't have been talking about deal structures and things like that. We should have been talking about how are we going to attract these people? How much money are we going to need to put behind marketing? What's our cost per click going to be? How many leads do we need to generate? What CRM tool are we going to use? How are we going to warm them up? We should have been spending 80-90% of our time talking about marketing. Without marketing at the forefront of every single one of your businesses, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Another example, talk to a owner of 2 different bowling alley facilities, 2 locations. And the question was simple. What do we need to do to grow? So usually the conversations are around growth. Like, how do we grow? And there's different phrases or words that people use to start a phone conversation or start a dialogue. But usually it's something around growth. Or they'll say we're stalled. What do we need to do to grow? And we'll start off again with marketing. And then we'll start talking about different topics. So in this case, it's, well, let's look at how many birthday parties you did at your facility. And red flag number 1 was they didn't have any exact data readily available. So if you think about like the family entertainment complex business and that family entertainment complex market, essentially, there's a lot of ways to generate revenue. But the 2 most common, ticket sales or admission, and party rentals. So usually places like miniature golf or trampoline parks, bowling alleys, discovery centers, museums, they have their admission fees, but they typically have party rooms, and that is where you can drive in instead of having one person come in at a time and an ex and a family, and you get them in spurts. You get a party that's there for 2 hours. You get, let's call it 20 kids, for example. You're getting the admission there. You're making some money on the room rental or food. You're getting word of mouth because now you've got 20 other parents and families that are coming through. It's a win-win all around. So when I said, well, tell me a little bit more about how many parties you had. Well, I don't really have that data. So that was homework assignment number 1. And then we started talking about logistics all of a sudden. Well, I think we need to have a new party coordinator, and we need to maybe change up the food a little bit to have better food offerings. Maybe we need to play with the pricing. And we went down that rabbit hole. And I said, let's pause and let's focus on the marketing. How do we attract more families that are going to want to have a party at your particular bowling alley, one of your 2 locations? What do we need to do? What kind of media assets do we need? What kind of social content do we need to put out? How are we going to get the word out? Through video? Are we going to do paid traffic? Is your website ranking if I were to go to Google and type in Pigeon Ford birthday venue, for example? Would we actually find you or not? And that's where the conversation again started to get derailed. So my challenge that I'm trying to kind of push on you for today, that I'm trying to lead you on, is to take a couple of steps back, list out all the problems that you currently have at your business. You've got team issues, you have cash flow challenges, product delivery issues, fulfillment issues, whatever they are. Prioritize all of them. Put them in an order of which ones are like hair on fire, 911 priority, all the way down. And I can tell you that I just did a similar exercise this morning. I did this exercise to where I was prioritizing for the remainder of the year, what are all of the activities and projects we are going to embark on for corporate marketing. So for the rest of 2024, what are all the projects? What do they look like? How long are they going to take? What type of impact might it have? What category? So we looked at cold email and regular email and paid traffic and funnels, new software, new product launches, more Dream 100 framework, like everything and anything. I did a purge. And I encourage you to do a purge not only for your marketing, but also for your business. I did the exact same purge about 2 weeks ago for the entire business. Not just looking at marketing, but looking at all the different areas that I feel like we needed to tackle. We need to look over here. We've got to look over here. Let's add this so that I'm getting everything out of my head, and then we put it into a priority order. But then what we did after everything was prioritized, we took a look at the calendar. We took a look at the financial resources, the time resources. What is it going to look like? How many people do we need? How much money do we need to put behind this particular activity? Is it going to need one person, 5 people? And we started looking at the resources behind it. But what we are looking for is to make sure that we are putting at least 60, 70, even 80% of our resources in marketing. What we easily have found is that marketing is the driver of everything else. That is going to produce the cash flow. We're going through more and more changes of the Dream 100 software. I could put all of my resources into that tool to make it the absolute best tool in the world. But if I run out of cash and nobody can learn about the tool because I didn't have any money put aside for marketing or I didn't execute the marketing, we're sunk. I've taken call upon call upon call with like apps, for example. Hey, we've got this amazing app. We're almost done with it. We've got $250,000 into it. My first question is, how much money do you have left for marketing? Well, Michael, the project was supposed to be $100,000. We're already at 250. We've tapped out everyone, myself, extra investors. So we're tapped. And I said, well, then you're out of business. You're literally out of business. As the winds are going to get stronger, as the economy is going to get tougher and tougher and tougher the next 6 months, 12 months, the best way to combat any of this is to make sure that whatever business you are in, you are adopting a marketing-first approach. And the best way to make sure that you are adopting a marketing-first approach is to look at 2 things. Number 1, look at your calendar. What are all the activities that are on your calendar for last week and this week? How many meetings? And start to clock it out and put it into buckets. Well, this operational stuff, meeting with my CPA, I had some personal time, lunch. You start to bucket everything out. And what's crazy to me is every time I do this, I feel like I did nothing. But what I want you to start seeing is baskets of time on your calendar that are put for marketing, whether that's creating content, writing blog posts, doing interviews, press releases, working with your marketing agency, all marketing related activities, strategy, you being mind behind your business. That stuff needs to be on your calendar. The second thing is you want to look at where all your money is going. Any new capital that you're putting into your business, and currently all the capital that's going into your business. How much of that is being put towards marketing-driven activities? You say, well, Michael, we're getting ready to invest in this. So like the bowling alley, they were looking at completely redoing their party room. I love the idea. The party room that they have, I've seen it. It's terrible. But then I asked the question, what are you going to invest in the party room? And I can't remember what it was. A huge number. Everything is relative, but it was a large number. $500,000, million, like it was a lot. So how much do you have to market this beautiful new party room? How much can we put to do some press and have a ribbon cutting ceremony and make sure it's all over social media and throw like 20, 30 grand at sponsored? How can we make a big splash? Well, we'd be tapped out at the 500. And so, well, then I wouldn't execute the project. I would rather see you get your bowling alley busier. I'd rather see you get more parties now by putting more of your time and energy and money right now on marketing to spin off the cash that then can fund that particular project. You have to take 5 steps back to be able to take 10 steps forward. You've got to take a step back so that you can see that your time, your energy, your money is focused on marketing. Marketing first. No joke marketing. All the way to riches. And when you tie this up in a bow, when you wrap the Dream 100 on top and you start to integrate the Dream 100 framework with your marketing first approach, you will be literally unstoppable. Tune in next week. I've got something special to announce. You're not going to want to miss it. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. See you next week.